Hi, Kevin Stroder here. So today I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk to you all, young professionals, about some of my lessons learned as a young professional in the nonprofit sector. I've had the opportunity to engage with many different networks of young people who are sort of like just starting or breaking into their careers, and they sort of like want support systems. They want to talk to other individuals who are also in positions similar to them, and also sometimes in places where they can sort of like have peer mentorship and talk about the things that they experience while working in their sector, and also trying to break into this world of like the nonprofit industry, but also just establishing a career amongst themselves. What are some of the lessons learned? What are some of the experiences you've had? I've always found it, especially with engaging with peers, that um, having a peer-to-peer exchange is something that's extremely important to me. So I just wanted to sort of set up a platform that could essentially support other individuals like myself. So what I want to do today is I want to give my sort of three major lessons learned from my experience so far in the nonprofit sector. Let me just give you a little bit of background about myself. So I've been in nonprofit work for a little over 7 years now, and it's a passion of mine. It's where I want to sort of end my career. And so far, it's been amazing to know um, that there are so many different components to finding success in this field. And even as a young person, you start to notice these things right away, or you start to connect with individuals who share these things with you as well. So I wanted to sort of like hone in on three specific topics and share a little bit about what those topics are and why I find them to be successes or important lessons learned while working in the nonprofit sector. So let's begin. The first thing I wanted to talk about is to seek out mentors. This is extremely important, something I learned very early on in my career, that when you're able to seek out mentorship, you should aim to find someone who's experienced these things before you. Just as we're able to have sort of this connection and communication amongst peers, it's also important to find someone who has been through this before. They may be older in age or may have a specific position. Whatever that looks like, find someone who likely has experienced some similar situations to you or have been in the field longer, and can give you um, a sort of historical perspective, per se, about what it takes to break into the field and find success. Um, and seek support from them. If those individuals exist, why not seek support from them? So I think that's a great thing you can do to start. Another thing you can do in relation to seeking mentorship is find those individuals who hold positions you desire. If you see someone who's in the C-suite, what we call it in the nonprofit sector, for example, someone who's a chief executive officer or a chief programs officer or a chief operating officer, those would be those individuals in the C-suite. Um, they may have positions that you desire, and try and figure out how they got there. What sort of skill set did they need to develop? What were some of their strengths, weaknesses, and what did they do to actually meet results, to actually get to where they are and thrive in those same settings. And last, in terms of seeking out mentorship, is if you're not able to commit to a specific individual, if you're not able to find someone who can essentially guide you at the beginning stages of your professional career in the nonprofit sector, it's extremely important to float. That means retain and gain as much information as you possibly can. And what I mean by that, in a couple of ways to do that, is to set networking or informational interviews. Call people up. Seek out online web-based networking systems like LinkedIn or even Facebook, and find those individuals who are willing to support you and willing to offer up that information and that skill set that will then translate to something you can provide towards your own career. So that's first, making sure you seek out mentors. That's important. Okay, so another lesson learned and another helpful tool that I found as a young professional in the nonprofit sector is to focus on professional development. Yeah, this is a big one. And it's something that I like to talk about often, simply because it's intentional and it allows you to not necessarily go with the trend. A lot of people say professional development is just trendy. That it's one of those buzzwords that goes around the office, and sometimes there's not a lot of action placed behind it. But for me personally, I found that if you value it, you will get value from it. And so, some ways in which that supports you in finding success in the nonprofit sector is it pushes your skill set. Of course, everybody enters their respective fields, especially the nonprofit sector, with a specific skill set. A lot of the times that may be associated with soft skills, um, depending on the industry, and then you may want to balance that out by seeking out other opportunities that will sort of highlight some of the skill sets you may not necessarily have or may not necessarily be polished with. So it does push your skill set. Seek out those opportunities, whether it be a conference or a training or a phone conversation with someone or watching webinars, whatever that may be. Make sure you seek out professional development. It can definitely like enhance who you are as an employee and make you a well-rounded and sought-after person in terms of talent within these organizations that I found to see. Also, it's your responsibility. It's up to you. It's up to you to guide what you feel are the necessary actions to address your learning curve. You won't know everything in the beginning. I found personally myself, I didn't know everything in the beginning, but I was able to take the time and really assess what were some of the necessary actions I needed to take to address some of my challenges. What were things I needed to apply to my learning curve in order to make it so that my talent was sort of guided in a way that was extremely intentional and also beneficial to the roles I were trying to obtain in the long term. So, in terms of professional development, it pushes your skill set and makes you well-rounded and sought after talent. And also, it's your responsibility to guide what your career looks like. Of course, individuals may support you in this process, but it's up to you to develop professionally. So, take the time to do that and think about steps, real steps that you can take to get there. Okay. Last one. So the last lesson that I've learned as a young professional so far, working in the sector, nonprofits, is to accept wins and losses. Yeah. Accept them. It's inevitable. These will be some of your biggest lesson learned, always. Your wins are something that you should absolutely celebrate. It's a testament to what you've done, your hard work, your skill set, everything that you've contributed to. But also take the time to reflect on the wins. Sometimes a win can get pushed to the side because it's simply a win. Once you celebrate, it's kind of it. You may not necessarily go back to it because you feel like you've done everything right. Sometimes you can't do everything right, but sometimes you've done enough to exceed your expectations and a lot of other individuals when you have a win. But taking the time to reflect on the way in which you got there is extremely important. So what were the steps that contributed to this win? What was something that you were able to do so that you could meet success? How can you scale the skill set and scale the steps you've taken already to meet those wins and to support other individuals that way? And to support other individuals in that way in which you could sort of then relay, these are the steps I took to make this win. These are the actions that I took to reach this win. In addition to that, make sure you evaluate your losses. And what I mean by that is pull it apart, break it up, pull it apart, pull it apart. It's important that you're not afraid of accepting a loss. And it's inevitable. At some point, especially like as you start to begin your career early on, you will have many losses. And I found myself in many situations where I considered it a loss. Other individuals may not have, but you know specifically what you're trying to do and what your aim is in terms of reaching your professional goals. So don't be afraid to run up against failure. There's nothing wrong with that. It actually helps you grow a lot. And I've talked to many industry professionals who support that same claim that if you're not taking the time to count your wins and evaluate your losses, that you're missing out on a lot of good reflection opportunity. So again, make sure you accept your wins and losses. So as I talked about those three different lessons learned, for me personally, being able to seek out a mentor, being able to develop myself professionally, and also being able to accept my wins and losses, I found those to be sort of like three overarching themes that I've learned so far within my professional career. I hope it's something you can take from me and then relay and develop into your own sort of learning as well. And also find circles in which you can exchange these same conversations, in which you can share your insight and your input and your sort of own individual lessons learned about your personal journey within the professional, within your profession. It just gives the opportunity for individuals to share the things that they've been able to achieve, overcome, and then apply to the work in the long term. So thank you so much for hearing me out. It's been great chatting with you. Again, this is Kevin Stroder, and I really appreciate your time. Peace.